Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Trending in Hollywood. It is again Dimitri Panos sans Scott Menzel. He is still in his family truckster, touring the country. To my knowledge, he just recently pulled into the Wally World parking lot where he and his family will have just a grand old time. So, anyways, how's it going? I have to be honest with you. When I woke up yesterday morning, I wasn't quite sure whether or not I was going to do the show because at that point, the news cycle in the entertainment business, anyways, within the industry, anyways, was light to say the least. And then it exploded late yesterday morning, giving me lots of stuff to talk about. So we're going to do that today. Before we begin the show, last week I kind of boasted that we would have a special guest, and that special guest was unable to make it today. And I might as well just tell you who it is or who it was. It is artist extraordinaire Vance Kelly. Um, so, for those of you, just a little bit of insight about myself, I do collect a lot of pop culture art. Um, so, you've heard of Mondo out of Austin, Texas. They sell through the Alamo Draft House Theaters and online and other places like Hero Complex Gallery here in Los Angeles. Forgive me. Bottleneck Gallery. Vance Kelly is just one of those amazing artists who does these his impressions of movies, movie poster. They're alternative types of movie posters. His imagery, and he captures facial expressions and he captures the talent in these movies wonderfully. And I thought he would be a great addition to the show. He almost did it, but he had to back out because he had a deadline to do. Again, his name's Vance Kelly. I strongly urge you to look him up. He sells a lot of work out of a gallery that I go to and I'm a fan of called Hero Complex Gallery. He's got just a great library of awesome content. I have a great handful of his artwork, some of it in a I have an artist's portfolio, poster portfolio, and many I have hanging up on my walls. He did confirm with me this morning that on Friday the 13th, he'd be available and he'd love to come on. So we will have the pleasure of his company on Trending in Hollywood to talk about movies, art, and perhaps even NFTs and his take on that. So sorry that he's not here today. Okay, I'm just going to get the show started right now. Okay, Trending in Hollywood. We are truly trending in Hollywood. Anybody who watches this show on Fridays at 11 a.m. PST, you can go into the weekend knowing that you're ahead of the curve because what we talk about on Friday in one way, shape, or form is going to be newsworthy on Monday and the following week. So, case in point, if you remember last week, I spent a little bit of time trying to figure out what the hell is an NFT. These non-fungible tokens. Like I said before, to me, it means no mushrooms on my pizza, please. That's not true. But it made news. NFTs made news this week, right out of Variety from July 29th. CES 2022. This is the Consumer Electronics Show that comes right out of Las Vegas. It's usually right after Sundance. It's in early January. They are going to have an NFT program track joining the trade show for the very first time. So NFT is going to be part of the Consumer Electronics Show. And, like I said, trending in Hollywood. We are just talking about NFTs last week. Now maybe in 2022, they'll be able to figure out what the hell an NFT really is. Scott tried to explain it to me earlier this week. He was in his car using his car phone. We didn't have the greatest reception, so I didn't really know what the hell he was talking about, to be quite honest with you. But he pretended to know what an NFT is. So that's news item number one. We're going to go over to this next story, which kind of made me go, really? The Batgirl movie. Warner Brothers looks to have J.K. Simmons in talks to return to Batman universe as Commissioner Gordon. Why do I find this odd? Well, it's pretty easy. To my knowledge, and I think to everybody's knowledge, after the Snyder cut of Justice League was released, Warner Brothers seemed to have been washing their hands of the Snyderverse, saying bye-bye, that's it, no more. Much to many fans' chagrin. Don't quite understand why. I mean, they did give him the opportunity to recut Justice League the way that he originally intended it. And quite honestly, we talked about it here. It's a much better version. But now, I don't understand Warner Brothers' take on this. We're no longer going to stick to the Snyderverse. We're going different avenues, but in one of our DC superhero movies, we're going to hire an actor who is hired by Zack Snyder to be in a couple of the Snyderverse DC superhero movies. I don't understand Warner Brothers here. I just don't get I don't understand it, period. Number one, I just wish Warner Brothers would get their act together in regards to their DC superheroes. They have a great Justice League of heroes to mine from and to make some great movies from, but there's just no consistency. That's, you're going to go from what a Snyderverse looking superhero is. We've already had the James Wan, the Aquaman 2 will be coming out. We have a new Batman, a new standalone Batman, but it's not Ben Affleck. It's Pattinson. Listen, I'm looking forward to that. Undoubtedly, there'll be a third Wonder Woman movie. How are these going to interconnect? I just have no idea. And if you're saying you're jettisoning and you're going away from a Snyderverse, why are you hiring an actor who is hired by Snyderverse to go into one of your superhero movies? I don't know. They need somebody to rein everything in, and we need consistency. That's just my take on the whole thing. Is just have some consistency, Warner Brothers. You have great superheroes that many love. DC fandom is as rabid as Marvel fandom, and the kids love it too. They love Batman. They love Wonder Woman. They love the Flash. They love Superman. So just plan it out. Make it consistent. So that news kind of caught me off guard, but hey, have at it. I am looking forward to the Batgirl movie. I think she's due to have a movie of her own, even though we really haven't seen Batgirl since the Joel Schumacher days. May he rest in peace, but anyways, moving on to the story that just blew up this week. And this came out yesterday, 10:53 a.m. Actually, I was on my computer and I got a Washington Post notification. If you're on an iMac, I don't know if it happens on Windows type computers, but you can get notifications and they'll come from your right hand side of the screen. They come in and then they go back out. Well, I was typing and I noticed out of the corner of my eye this article came up, and what I saw quickly was Scarlett Johansson sues Disney, and then it disappeared, and I was like, "Wait, what? What? What do you mean she sues Disney?" I immediately went to Google. I tried to find that notification. I was like, "What is going on here?" It wasn't in the news quite yet. It hadn't made the rounds. I typed in Scarlett Johansson, Disney, couldn't find anything. And then lo and behold, it exploded out here. It was huge. So basically, Scarlett Johansson is suing Disney for breach of contract over the Black Widow release. Now, we've been talking about Black Widow, I think, ever since it has been released. Okay. You know this. There's been a lot going on from how they blended in their Disney Plus streaming numbers into their opening weekend gross to puff up the gross, how those streaming numbers disappeared in the second and third weeks, never to hear from them again, but just that 1 week. And Disney's decision to release Black Widow on Disney Plus at the same time it hit theaters has sparked a legal battle with Scarlett Johansson, the actress who plays Black Widow. Now, in the lawsuit, they allege that the star's contract was breached when the studios opted not to debut the film exclusively in theaters. Okay, and they claim depressed ticket sales for the Avengers spinoff. Now, I'm going to stop right there for a minute. And again, I'm quoting from this Variety article, just so I don't get in trouble, written by Brett Lang and Rebecca Rubin. So when you break this down, okay, what does this mean? Well, it's something that we've talked about here. And how much did the streaming service cut into the actual box office? I think it was, again, we don't really fully know. All we do know is that we're getting some, I'm getting some, getting some, I keep, hopefully this will stop. But what is going on here is we don't exactly know, but we talked about how much million would cut right into the box office gross. Now, something that I'm sure kind of know, but maybe you don't know it fully, is I'm trying to fix. I'm having technical is unstable. Trying to fix that. Hopefully that works. Going back to so what you may or may not know is a lot of actors will take what they call points or a percentage or something. So they defer part of their salary in order to get bonuses. And the bonuses are in reflection of when the movie hits a particular box office number, a milestone, so to speak. So, say a movie like Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson gets like 20 million. But when the movie hits $100 million domestic box office, she gets an additional 20 million. When it hits 175, she'll get even more, so on and so forth. So they get additional monies, they get bonuses for when the movie performs at the box office. Okay. So she's coming out saying, I'm losing money here. You owe me money. We made this deal. The movie was supposed to come out last summer, if you remember. So she's like claiming, hey, you owe me money, or I'm suing you guys because this was supposed to be an exclusive deal. Now, I have a feeling that the NATO article that I talked about last week might have been an inspiration on having this come forward. So you have a lot of industry people talking about whether or not the Disney Plus streaming hurt its box office. And then NATO came out and said definitively it hurt the box office. And when it hurt the box office, I mean, she's getting kind of screwed out of money. So, hey, Zach, welcome to the show. It's all right. Glad you're with us. So there's potential that Scarlett Johansson, who has made 9 movies with them, like is going to get screwed out of some monies because of this decision in which Disney made. And we talked about this, like it's crazy. So I'm gonna move on because look, I am on this. I'm kind of siding on Scarlett Johansson's side on this. Look, I know I'm talking about rich entities here. Scarlett Johansson, she ain't short on cash. Disney sure as hell ain't short on cash, right? But if it's in a contract, I don't, you shouldn't be getting screwed out of money because you went on good faith and you did the work. She performed. She's, I believe, a producer. She did all the marketing for the movie. And then because of Disney's decision to do what they did, there's potential that she could be losing some money. And, as Zach says, contracts out here, they're really not worth the toilet paper that they're written on. But moving on, Disney. Now this happened. Yeah, again, this all happened yesterday, folks. And there's a reason why I'm going to focus on it because, well, I'm going to talk about that later, but it affects later releases, including one that comes out this week, which I'm going to talk about. So Disney, within about 4 hours, they come back and they fire back at Scarlett Johansson. Can you believe this? They call Black Widow lawsuit sad and distressing. Now, before I get into this, I have to make a claim. I'm not a lawyer. No kidding. I'm not a lawyer. This is not LegalZoom. I am not here to give legal advice. This is opinion. This is, I'm just saying, it's an opinion of strategy. I'm just talking like why this is happening, how it affects movies releases going forward, or how it can potentially, and like a little bit of hypocrisy. And that's what I'm trying to point out here, especially in this article, which again came out about 4 hours later in Variety by Brett Lang. And the Walt Disney Company, it clapped back. Yay. Slamming the actress of breach of contract lawsuit, they were slamming her for showing callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of COVID-19 pandemic. Boy, howdy. Really, Disney. Really, Disney. Shame on you, Disney. If I were a lawyer, and again, I don't even know if this is like, I don't know if you can use this as a defense if you're Scarlett Johansson's lawyers. And those people are far smarter than I, but I'm just using common sense. I'm just using like whatever little common sense I have to say, oh, okay, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, may I present to you Exhibit A? And it would be a picture of Disneyland taken not but 2 weeks ago, with crowded Main Street, crowded California Adventure, crowded Disneyland, people with no mask, no social distancing, and they're calling her callous. It's a callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects. Now, mind you, Black Widow was released on over 4,000 locations. That's a very wide release. And at the time, in many places across the country, if not all, there was no social distancing. They weren't, when you bought a ticket for a movie theater to go see Black Widow, the theaters were pretty much at 100% capacity, meaning people were they were directly next to you, left and right, directly in front, and directly behind you. Okay, okay. So, and then I would go, oh, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, allow me to submit um, uh, uh, more evidence B, and it would be a picture of Avengers Campus the first week it opened, and the crowds that they had. And again, people were pretty much maskless a lot, waiting to get in. They were waiting up to 3 to 5 hours just to walk through the Avengers campus. I don't know how. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but I don't know how they even take that stance against Scarlett Johansson, calling it a callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of COVID-19. How can they do that? How can they do that with a straight face when their parks are open? There are, I don't know what. Look, when I went in May 22nd, they still had social distancing. You had to wear a mask outside, and the capacity, there were limitations on the capacity. I constantly keep up with Disneyland and the parks. Those capacity issues, it's back to as many say who've written about the experience, it's back to pre-pandemic levels. Mind you, that is without the annual pass members, which everybody complained about for causing the crowds. I don't think that's so anymore. Anyways, there's no merit whatsoever to this filing. Disney said the lawsuit is especially sad and distressing. They went on and did something crazy too. That the release of Black Widow and Disney Plus Premier Access enhanced her ability to earn additional compensation on top of the $20 million she received to date. Now, why would they do that? I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but that's insane, and we don't know what her bonus structure is. Now, 20 million is a lot of money for you and I and Zach. I'm sure if somebody gave you 20 million, you wouldn't say no. Who would? Who would really? And again, I'm just going to go back that Scarlett Johansson has been making these Marvel movies. She's made 9 of them, and she's built a character that everybody's loved. And if they're not going to hit a domestic box office gross because Disney was greedy, okay, and this is the only reason why at this point, when you're releasing a movie on 4,000 screens, right, you can't be talking to me about callous disregard due to the COVID-19 pandemic. You can't be. Not when you're opening up your park to a very high capacity and people are there shoulder to shoulder with no mask. Please, Disney, again, shame on you. Shame on you. Look, I'm a Disney fan for everybody who knows me. I've had an annual pass since pretty much I moved out here to California, to Southern California. I've had the highest tier level pass for like ever until they took it away. Look, I know it's all about the bottom line. I understand. But as Zach said, yeah, they seem to be very, very the PR department is callous and disregarding because they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. And if you're just going on that alone, I would say you don't have a case against Scarlett Johansson. Just pay her the money. She's done good by you. She's done good by Marvel. She's done good by the fans. So, but then there's more, folks. Wait, there's more. Black Widow, again, in Variety, they're right on top of this. This came out this morning at 8:42, again by Brent Lang. Black Widow lawsuit. CAA slams Disney for releasing the Scarlett Johansson's salary. So, CAA comes out and said, want to address the Walt Disney Company statement that was issued in response to the lawsuit. So Brian Lord, he's the co-chairman of CAA, which is Creative Artist Agency. The agent, one of the foremost power brokers, they have shamelessly and falsely accused Miss Johansson of being insensitive to the global COVID pandemic in an attempt to make her appear to be someone they and I know she isn't. Lord went on to note that Johansson has appeared in 9 of these Marvel movies, and then the company included her salary in their press statement in an attempt to weaponize her success as an artist and a businesswoman, if that were something she should be ashamed of. Scarlett is extremely proud of the work. Obviously, she's proud of the work, and obviously, she got money, right? Not you don't do 9 movies because you're not happy of the team of people that you're working with, right? And so she's extremely part of the actors, directors, producers, and the Marvel creative team have been apart for well over a decade. Disney's direct attack on her character and all else they implied beneath the company that many of us in the creative community has worked with successfully for decades. Again, I don't know Disney's tactic here. I'm not a lawyer. Again, this isn't legal Zoom, but I don't understand their tactic. And to make a, we look at these things, and the tactic is to make her look like she's greedy. They're like, hey, she made $20 million. Oh, that's a lot of money, and they're right. But if contractually she was set to make more, if the movie hit certain box office milestones, how can you like it's a contract, like you had that agreement before you could even pronounce COVID-19. To me, again, Scarlett Johansson doesn't have to worry. She doesn't have to look at price tags, okay? But that doesn't mean she deserves to be screwed out of what she was supposed to be getting or potentially getting because Disney took a route in order to like pad their gross and make money for their shareholders. I mean, I don't know. Again, it's the rich screwing the rich, so you can look at it that way. I just look at it as I wouldn't be at like whatever money I can earn. Like I don't want to get screwed out of it for any particular reason. So, and I'm sure you don't either. So that is huge to me. But then we look at also, we look at today, Hollywood Reporter. This comes out of the Hollywood Reporter. This by far I found to be a fantastic article. Only people who hate women will side with Disney on this. Oh, Zach. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it goes that far. I'm not sure. I don't know, Zach. It's actually an interesting point, but I'm going to bring that up in just a little bit because of another movie that's coming out today, in fact. So this is written by Eric Gardner. It's in today's Hollywood Reporter, and the headline reads, Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow lawsuit is game-changing, but it may be legally weak. Now, I strongly urge that you find this article because it did give an amazing, it gave an amazing breakdown and explained to an extent why this may not work. Okay. So according to the lawsuit filed at the time the agreement was entered, it was well understood by the parties and Disney that a theatrical release referred to an exclusive release in theaters for an extended period of time that was roughly 90 to 120 days. Now, again, let's think about this. A lot has changed since that agreement happened. Okay. Nobody looked to amend this agreement because if you've been paying attention, and this is something that Scott and I have talked about a lot, the windows have collapsed. The windows have collapsed, and they've collapsed because the studios made them collapse. That's it. That's all there is to it. They took it, again, they took advantage of a situation, that advantage being the COVID-19 pandemic. And they decided without any talk to exhibitors, They decided to do it on their own and go out and say, we're going out day and date on PVOD. We're going to go out. We're collapsing the windows. And now the kind of handshake kind of window number is 45, which is half of 90. 90 days being about 3 months, 45 being half of that. So, in her complaint, Johansson suggests that Disney decided to release this film when it knew the theatrical market was weak, rather than waiting a few months for the market to recover. Now, it's hard to argue that point when you have a history of box office leading up to Black Widow that really, outside of a movie like Kong or Godzilla vs. Kong, which it took months for it to reach. It took months for it to reach 100 million, right? But then we had F9, and then F9 comes out, and it opened up big. In fact, at the time, it was the record-breaking opening weekend box office post-pandemic that we had seen. And as we talked about a week later, it literally fell from outer space. And the same thing happened to Black Widow. So, it's very interesting that what's going on here. And again, there's not much guarantee it'll stick there. So it's very interesting. This article goes on to why go after Disney. It could have gone after Marvel. Why make this public? Why does it matter that Johansson is pursuing this fancy, tortious interference claim instead of straight contract breach? Not to mention fraud claims, too, for leading her to believe she'd achieve box office bonuses by starring in the movie. Well, for starters, it shows the actress indeed senses advantage to putting and keeping this case in an open court, which it does. Case in point, I'm talking about it right here. So you can't get any more of an open court with a confederacy of dunces like myself. This is why we're talking about it. So you understand why she goes out and does it. And again, it all goes back to public perception and how Disney used those numbers, right? That they reported. Now, again, they reported the numbers for Cruella, but they didn't blend them in to puff up a gross. They did have them separate. But with Black Widow, that was a different story. They blended that number into the opening weekend so they can say they hit 217 million. So, the other argument is that Disney Plus was using Black Widow to prop up Disney Plus members or subscriptions, I should say. Disney had already delayed the movie. And they keep on saying, they delayed it and then they came out. We're going to have Cruella. A lot of the Pixars just went straight. They curtailed theaters altogether. But Black Widow, they're saying another argument is they use Black Widow to gain more subscribers, which makes sense. So Johansson's camp appears to have decided their best strategy was to go public, tell Wall Street about troubles lurking on Disney's streaming front, present the possibility that Disney's financials could get examined in open court, in short, use that leverage to writing a settlement. So I kind of do believe that we may not ever hear, this may not make it in. This is as far as it'll get as open court. Oh, I'm very sorry. That some settlement will be agreed upon. But Disney's pissed that she did this. Obviously, they wouldn't have come out, made that egregious hypocrisy, Hippocratic statement. But it's also going to, though, affect other things going down the line. And that's going to bring me Disney has another movie coming out today. It came out last night in previews. It's this movie called The Jungle Cruise. It stars of some people you may have heard of. Dwayne Johnson, aka The Rock, and Emily Blunt. It is based off of, well, it was a cult popular ride at the parks, The Jungle Cruise, a very uh, punny ride, and there were a select amount of Disney fans, myself included, who loved going on that ride. And you know that the ride itself relied on its skipper boat captain. Now, why is everything that's happening with Black Widow important to of the release of Jungle Cruise? Well, Jungle Cruise is also on Disney Plus Premiere this weekend. For a mere $29.99, you can watch Jungle Cruise at the comfort of your home. I personally wouldn't recommend that. I've seen the movie. I wouldn't recommend doing it that way, but it is available on Disney Plus streaming. Now, as of this morning and doing my research, it is looking as if the movie could track to do $25 to $30 million. Again, for a movie starring The Rock, those would be low numbers. This also is to be Disney hopes, and I'm sure the talent involved, somewhat of a franchise, not unlike Pirates of the Caribbean. So I don't know what's going to happen with the grosses. Personally, I believe it could hit 30. I think it could do 30 to 35. I don't know. We still got COVID and Delta variant. Not sure how much that's going to keep people outside from going inside a theater, I should say. But 25 to 30 is what it's tracking from Hollywood. Prognosticators, you can read this in the trades, whatnot. But what's going to be interesting is come Sunday and Monday, will Disney release their Disney Plus streaming numbers? Because let's think about it. I think in part what got them in the hot water with Scarlett Johansson is that they released those numbers and they said 60 million, right? Now, if a movie makes 80, I think that in a pre-pandemic world, I honestly do believe that Black Widow could have made onwards and upwards of 100 to 100, maybe 110 million, but we'll never know. That's just speculation on my part. It's an educated guess. With Jungle Cruise, what do you say? Like, do they go out and try to roll those numbers in to make the gross look better? Also, if you recall, Jungle Cruise was meant to be released last year as well. So those contracts are going to be sort of similar, I guess, to what Scarlett Johansson had, meaning they were based on domestic theatrical release, exclusive release, and there were probably box office points, box office milestones reached for both The Rock and for Emily Blunt. Remember, Emily Blunt was their Mary Poppins, okay? Emily Blunt is she's an A-lister as far as I'm concerned. The Rock is for sure an A-lister, right? And he was a voice in Moana, so he has some cachet and history with Disney. Does Disney want to piss him off? Will they? Will they, like? I mean, and again, I guess Zach, this kind of goes to your point. Will they let The Rock slide while they go to battle with Scarlett Johansson? That would be very telling, right? And you just don't want to go on a war with The Rock, really, because number one, he's the most beloved man, I think, right now in cinema. like around the world. The guy is affable. He loves the work. Okay, he loves doing this stuff. Whenever you see him, it doesn't matter whether he's promoting Jungle Cruise or Baywatch. He does the work, and he does it with a smile, and people love him. He's been very gracious to the Hollywood Critics Association, and I can't even begin to tell you about his speeches and how heartfelt and meaningful they are for winning an award from the Hollywood Critics Association. So, do you want to go to war with him, or are they just going to pay him? Or are they going to try to screw him out? Same goes for Emily Blunt. Now, if they do it on a, again, speculation. We have no idea. We'll have a better idea coming this weekend when we see if they release those numbers. So, yeah, we have so many things in play. And really, folks, you should pay attention to this stuff because it's going to affect these contracts are going to affect how movies are cast, how movies are released, and it's going to affect the business in a way that we may not be able to turn around from. And you know that the lawyers are already looking at this stuff, going, okay, what do we have? Okay, do we, now we're down to, see, the other deal too. If down to a 45 day window, how do these bonus structures work? Like week 2, if it makes this kind of money, week 3, week 4, week 5. I mean, everything has changed because of, I'll say it, studio greed. That's it. Studios didn't care about the theaters that were closed during the pandemic when they made these, when they legitimately came out and purposefully crashed the windows. It's been something that they've been wanting to do for the past decade. I wrote about this, Universal being the first studio to attempt this about a decade ago. This is what they've wanted to do for a long time. The pandemic gave them an excuse. So it's here. It's not going to change. We're not going to go back to 90 days. Those days are gone. But the contracts are going to have to be rewritten. And the ones for Jungle Cruise and Black Widow, these were written again, like I said, before we came sadly familiar with the word pandemic. So this is why I think it's very important for you to take a note of. We will continue to talk about it in Trending in Hollywood. It sure as hell has been trending these past day and a half. I did not expect this news to blow up the way that it did. And it's still being written about 24 hours plus later. It affects the business. It affects going forward how we're going to see movies and how actors are going to be treated. So now, with all that said, is like I've said, as much as I don't want to be seeming like I'm railing on Disney, but I will praise them when they're due praise, but I got to rail against them when I think that there's some hypocrisy and when there's just really bad form on their part. So let me get into and talk a little bit about The Jungle Cruise, the movie. I did have the opportunity to see it, and boy howdy, The Jungle Cruise is the summer's first highly enjoyable, exciting, fun adventure movie that doesn't sell you down the river. And folks, if you don't think so, then you're in denial. And that's a different river altogether. Okay. Seriously, folks, the cinematic poopy that's been unleashed on us this summer, especially with movies like Black Widow and F9, it really was. It was a wonderful reprieve to watch a swashbuckling adventure kind of movie that was just there for pure enjoyment and entertainment. If you're a fan of The Jungle Cruise, as I am, the ride that is, listen, I can tell you the movie is equally as punny. There are there are excellent Easter eggs throughout the entire movie that point right to the ride itself, which I loved and I ate up. And look, I got to tell you, so um, it wasn't too long ago. It wasn't too long ago that there was a wink and a nod passing of the action hero torch from one Arnold Schwarzenegger to Dwayne the Rock Johnson um, in that movie, The Rundown, right? Well, about 18 or so years later, right? Um, I have to say that The Rock is cemented. Uh, he cemented his action hero status. He is the action hero of today, and he's earned his stripes. He is really great in the Jungle Cruise. He gets to flex all of his muscles. He's charming. Uh, he's formidable. He can say a pun. He's great with the puns. He makes a fantastic skipper, right? But he's also great with the punches that the movie has. He is fantastic. Uh, Surprisingly, he and Emily Blunt, they make a fantastic couple together. I think that it was very breezy. It was very fun. We had really good supporting characters. Um, the direction, Homie Colette Sarah, he did a really good job, and he knows what he was doing. And I gotta say, uh, go see it in a theater. The movie looks good. It's fun. Yes, no lie, it definitely has. There are. It definitely looks a cross between, say, Pirates of the Caribbean, peppered with a little bit of Indiana Jones, and salted with a little bit of, say, a movie like The Mummy. It is made for families. It really is a good time. I highly recommend. Don't spend. It's look. I don't think any movie is worth $30 for you to watch at home. Not when a movie like this, which showcases Dwayne Johnson in a very affable role. Oh, not the Tom Cruise Mummy, by the ways. No, no, the Brendan Fraser, Stephen Sommers movie, that one. Um, I think it is. I think the voyage is worth seeing on the big screen. You'll have a good time, and I do say this: if you decide you go see it in the big screen, be careful, wear a mask. And truly, folks, I hope you're all vaccinated. I really, really do. It's really important. Um, and mask up if you're in a movie theater. I think at least here in LA County, if you're indoors, you have to wear a mask. But I do believe that you'll have a really good time. I think you'll have a really good time hopping on that Jungle Cruise. So that's about it for the show today. I believe Scott will be back. Yay! Yeah, everybody, you can take a sigh of relief. He's back. The show will almost be back to normal. I look forward to the conversation. Zach, thank you very much for being on board today. Thank you for allowing me to be the skipper. And well, until next week, I'm sure there's going to be more news that'll break. Who knows? It'll break out on Thursday morning again. So stay tuned. We'll cover it for you. We're going to continue to follow Black Widow and this lawsuit for as long as we can until there's a settlement reached that we'll never know about. But we'll also be able to talk about Jungle Cruise and its box office gross, and see if they were caught in the wake of this whole Black Widow legal thing going down at the Mouse House. So again, please subscribe to Trending in Hollywood. You can follow me on the social medias. Twitter and Instagram are the same at Dimitri Panos. Please follow. I have my full review of the Jungle Cruise available. You can find it on Twitter and on Instagram. Take a look. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy the movie. And write in the comments for HCA, Trending in Hollywood. Tell us what you think of the show. Tell us what you think about Black Widow and what's going on with Disney. And until later on, we will see you at the movies. We'll see you Trending in Hollywood. Remember, August 13th, Vance Kelly, your mission, should you decide to accept, is go out, find some of his art, look at it, get to know the guy. He's going to be on the show. August, it's Friday the 13th. It's going to be a very special show. Can't wait. Thank you very much for watching and tuning in. Take care.